Go on, Mr. Sam, tell everybody what's happening to you so they
No.
can all be sympathetic.
It's like you think I'm fishing. This is I'm not having that. I just said I'm hot and then I'm cold and I can't decide. And I was taking my jumper off and putting it back on. And then you said, what did you say? Don't you
I
blame this
said, are
on
you
me?
going through the change, Mr. Sam?
Yeah.
And
And
you
I
said,
said,
yes, I'm going through the menopause.
which is terrible. And I don't pretend to know. I can only imagine um how how it's not nice to have to deal with all of the things I've learned over the course of from your journeys with with the menopause and hormone stuff and all that kind of stuff. Like yeah, I yeah, it's a I get it. It's a big deal, but I don't get it because I'm a bloke and I'm not
Don't
going to
get
have
it.
to go through it,
I'm
am I?
trying to get it. It's a good job you got big sis in the house, isn't it? Teaching you all the
Yeah.
stuff. Right. We're going very Alan Partridge today, and we are talking about cooking in prison. No, we're not really.
What?
It's monkey tennis. No, it's not. We're talking about sober cooking. You look really confused
Yeah,
there.
I was like, what? This is
It's when
sometimes.
this is years old when Alan Partridge is trying to come up with ideas to because he wants to stay on the payroll at the BBC and he's coming up with ideas for programs and one is cooking in prison and then there's youth hostling with Chris Eubank.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, of course there is. And doesn't he do an advert? Like, doesn't isn't there a? I'm pretty sure there's a skit somewhere of where Chris Eubank takes the piss and does it. We'll have to see if we can find it. Does something
Oh,
like
that'd be awesome.
that. Anyway, yes, cooking alcohol free, sober cooking. Well, and I think that this is quite seemingly like why why are they talking about that? But actually, for many of us, I know a lot of one of my patterns used to be Sunday afternoon. Spend however many hours cooking for the week or cooking my dad's like cooking a roast, bottle of wine or two or whatever, and it's kind of like it's a thing. And then if we're gonna when we're alcohol free, um, obviously we have to kind of fall back in love with cooking again, all right, again, and kind of meet it
Mm.
and see it differently. So I think, and maybe for a lot of mums, it will be that glass of wine when the kids get home, and dads, cooking dinner, like when they get back from work, like all that stuff, like the evening times is going to have that kind of stuff wrapped up into it as well. So I think this is probably something that affects a lot more people than you might think. What do you reckon?
I reckon so. And I think there's certainly two angles. There is the it's a chore. I'm going to drink to get through the chore and to make it palatable. And I
Make
think
it
that there
palatable.
make it palatable. Oh God,
Great
yeah,
puns.
fun. uh, we need to have a dinger to
All right.
ding when there's one of those moments. And the other angle is the like you were saying about the Sunday afternoon thing. It's the um, making a drinking occasion out of something that isn't a drinking occasion.
Yeah, yeah, making a meal of it, you might say.
I was going to say
Ding.
that as well, and I thought that's a step
And
too
that's just
far.
for
But you were
starters.
prepared
Ding,
to go there. Oh
ding.
my
Right, come on
God.
to the main event. Ah,
I'm actually hiding behind the microphone. It's so
I can if I fantastic, mate. Quite like puns. Ah, I've the power of the puns was so powerful that I've literally forgotten what we were talking about. Please,
bad.
please, could you start again?
Do you want to talk John for short? Do you want to talk about cooking being a chore
Oh yeah.
or making a meal out of cooking? Not making. No, hang on, that is right. Making a meal out of
Well,
cooking.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what makes sense to you because yeah. I'd love to go on. Go for
Let's
it.
let's do the latter as the former because before I had kids, I did actually really enjoy cooking
Mm.
and well, I've always enjoyed food massively,
Mhm.
and I used to really enjoy cooking, and I would make a big event out of it, and was really into the ceremony around it. And then at some point, alcohol became a component part of that. I'm not entirely sure when, but drinking along the way and then because you can have all kind of there's different stages of it, isn't there? There's like the um the kicking it off stage and then the rounding it off stage at the end with you know what calls them, like port. I used to love port at the end.
Wow, have you said anything for the last 2 minutes? You've just been like saying word like
What are you on about? Weirdo.
either I've lost the ability to understand English or no, you are making some sense. It's true. Well, yeah, no, I
You know
hear
what I
you.
mean?
It's
Well,
the
because it's a whole thing, isn't it? It's
ceremony.
like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the thing is a lot of people talk those who love cooking. They very often describe it as an escape, something that's like a meditation. They find themselves in flow. And then I
Mm,
think often, some people try and use alcohol to provide those same states as well. So they kind of become interwoven together. Do you know what? I think there's many, many things on the alcohol-free journey where alcohol has become fused with the activity and we've fallen for the false belief or the full how it seemingly looks, which is that alcohol is the cause of a lot of the kind of reasons why we enjoy doing that thing. um
mm,
and it's a trick, it's a chemical trick. And this can happen with many different things, and I think decoupling them um, is actually a very, very powerful thing to do because yeah, taking some time, me and so everything that I used to get from a Sunday afternoon, me and Rob quite often I'll be like, should we on Sunday afternoon, should we cook something together? And we'll put a radio show on that we missed during the week, or we'll listen to some music or whatever, and we might have some alcohol-free drinks or whatever, or not, and we'll just cook together, and if good songs come on, we'll have a dance and and it's just like it's valuable um soul cleansing like time that's doing
mm.
something that's great for the week. Like we're cooking for the week, like future Sam and future Robin are going to be like, cheers guys for doing that on Sunday,
Oh
because now when
yeah.
I'm running around like a mentalist on Wednesday and I don't have time, like there's food in the fridge right now because it wasn't me actually, but Rob kindly took the time to do some cooking yesterday. And she really enjoyed it because she was listening to her book on Audible or whatever, and booze is not a requirement of it. It's not a necessary part of it.
You might have to send me some food parcels down.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure they'll get there in one piece. But you never know, do you?
Worth a shot. Worth a shot. Yeah, back in the day, Sundays used to be silly Sundays. I think we actually coined. I can't remember whether that was it, something like that. But
Sunday sessions, isn't it? Is the
it
big
would
one.
start off as um, a what you're describing, like the intention of connection and spending time together and filling up your soul, feeding your soul. But then it would just turn into silliness, which seems silly and fun, but actually you it's just lost time. Just lost time, and then you end up feeling crap, ready for Monday morning.
Yeah,
So
that's a big point. That's a good point, actually. And I mean, I'm not pointing fingers or anything for friends or family, but it's true that there have been many occasions where if someone has been in the kitchen or a number of people have and they've been drinking or whatever, and then when it comes to the main event, right, when it comes to the sitting down to eat, they're not there, right, they're not fully there. That's definitely a thing. So if this seems a bit disjointed, Ellie, without any warning, just got up and
just went
left.
off, went
I
off
thought
somewhere.
something had happened, so I click pause. I thought, no, normally there's some kind of hand signal or something. But
Like,
yeah, and then so it's like we've said before, like we made that podcast a while back, didn't we, about talking about the truth in and around alcohol and connection and how it's not helping us connect with anybody. Are you stroking your imaginary sheep or your imaginary?
sheepdog.
I think you're stroking an imaginary owl. That's what it looks like.
Oh,
Would
do like
be
an owl.
do
There's
Rob's
there's the
yeah.
most gorgeous owl. There's a place where I take the kids in the summer, uh, over at the caravan, and there's an owl called Freddie, and he's the most gorgeous bird. And the kids, this is God, it might even be 2 years ago now, where I mean, it's because he's big and has very scary talons, and the kids were like right up there for it, the little wee ones, right up there for holding Freddie,
Yeah, cool.
especially little Noah, and it was very impressive to see her hold him. It's a lovely little
Say
thing.
nothing's gonna hold her back, is it, eh?
No, yeah, she's a fucking force to be reckoned with, that girl.
Is it power?
Oh my God.
She's a little legend,
Yeah,
though.
she
Um,
is.
just before this thought passes my head, I think the one thing that I think anyone can do who's had a really and I know that, like, we talk about wine going with food and all these kinds of things, and to anyone who is looking to decouple and from
Mm,
that, and to really, I think it is about asking yourself about what you really love about cooking and reconnecting with it, and
mm,
recreating that ceremony, making it special. And you might just be really surprised if you carve out that time and make it sacred time for you. Like, foods are really, I think, for so many of us, we eat very, very quickly, and we're not present. One thing that I found really amazing about spending some time in an ashram, where eating in silence, everyone's blessing their food, everyone's chewing for 30 to 40 times for every single mouthful, like everybody's kind of eating very, very consciously and very, very mindfully, is the reverence that they have. It's like, because it's God it's God eating God at the end of the day. It's like
mm,
it's the energy and the fuel that we feed ourselves with. We quite literally make these bodysuits out of the food that we eat. So it's important to have this love connection with our food. And many of
mm,
us, we're eating food that's kind of coming out of factories that hasn't been made with a lot of love. And so if we can take those ingredients and pour love into them, that's going to go a very, very long way. And actually removing alcohol from the picture allows us to bring a lot more consciousness and a lot more love and a lot more presence into that. And in my experience, it can become very, very special. I know for myself, like, I've, in a way, recently been falling back in love with cooking, and because I've struggled with time, like running around trying to find time and stuff during the day when we're busy. Um, but if we can find that one time a week or whatever to just have a bit of time to kind of cook a little bit of food and connect with it, it's powerful, right? And I think a lot of us have got issues. We had Dahlia on talking about gut issues and stuff, and I think some of that comes from the fact that we're not present with our food, both when we're making it or when we're eating it. So
no.
this is a real opportunity, actually.
It is, and particularly early on in the sober journey, where we've been abusing the body for so long and it needs to be repaired. And so what you're putting in there is really important. And it sounds really bloody obvious, but I don't think we compute just how important it is. And it's all the basic stuff around, like, the regularity of eating, eating 3 proper meals a day, starting off with your biggest meal early in the day and then your smallest meal towards the end of the day. And I'm not saying that that is necessarily prescriptive, but there's some kind of general things that, if you're not thinking about how you eat and what you're eating, you can make some very small changes that are going to have a big impact on how you feel. And because we often see in these, like in the alcohol experiment, not so much these days, but I remember in the beginning, there always used to be so much bloody talk about supplements, and people go, "Oh, I'm taking this supplement," and then people feel that the pull into, "All right, well, the answer to this is I need to take a bunch of supplements." Well, it might be helpful to supplement some things like vitamin D, but supplements are called supplements for a reason. It's supplementary. It's not the main course.
Yeah, without that foundation to land on. I mean, there's something like, if you want to go talk to someone who knows their stuff, and, someone, a dietitian that you really respect or something, or someone who really understands supplementation, then awesome. But as a supplement to a foundational piece, and that's just, eating to the best of our ability, real food. And
Yeah.
it can go the other way as well. Like, we might not be thinking about food at all. And I have a history of thinking about food way too much and trying to kind of control everything. And, like, there's this really lovely sweet spot in the middle where, 80% of the time we're really kind of doing the things that make sense. And then 20% of the time we're having treats and not panicking about stuff. And
Yeah.
this kind of having this kind of really balanced look at it. And yeah, I think that's a really important part of it. Do you know, the other thing that occurs to me, mate, is that there's another possibility here as well, which is not necessarily just that we're someone where alcohol and cooking has been very intertwined, but maybe we're someone for whom cooking decent food or whatever has never really made sense because we've been blotto and we've always been grabbing a curry on the way home or whatever. And now, for the first time in my life, we're like, oh, actually, I want to cook. Like I have some time and I want to cook and I want to look after myself. Um,
Mm.
and I think for anyone who's in that bracket, starting off tiny habits, keeping it as simple as you can, go grab yourself a book on one pot cooking or something. Go grab it. Like, it's so funny, like talking about Jamie Oliver. We've never spoken about him on a show, have we? But like some of his stuff, which is like 5 ingredient meals and stuff, as an entry point, that kind of stuff is real food, like easy to do, doesn't take a huge amount of time, and you can build from there. Who knows, maybe perhaps it will become this huge love where you're, like my brother is like he's got all sorts of weird shit in his fridge and all this because he loves it, right? And he's someone for whom alcohol and food used to be very intertwined, and he's decoupled a lot of that. He just loves cooking. He just loves cooking for cooking, and you can see that he loves serving food to people. um and this rolls over, of course, into going out and enjoying food too. It's all connected, right?
It is. But to be able to, as you said, to decouple it and to live in the truth of what it is and what it can be is really powerful. There's a lady who I've been working with, just an absolute delight working with one to one. And her and her partner are really into cooking and would connect over cooking and drinking before. And now they're having just the most wonderful interactions together because with alcohol out of the way, it's much more sensual and it's much more
Yeah.
alive, like so it's what they had before was good, but this is like exceptional. And so for them in their relationship, it's just kind of kicked things up a notch because they're enjoying that time together so much more. um they were having a good time before, but this is like really special, and it's enhancing the entirety of their relationship, as well as they're enjoying a lot of beautiful food.
I love
So
that.
yeah,
It's sacred, right? Like,
it is.
we don't often sit and think about it enough because it's something that we kind of just do, and for many of us, we don't have a huge amount of time, so we grab that meal deal. I don't know if they call them meal deals in the US, but over here, you grab yourself your crisps, your sandwiches, and your chocolate bar for whatever, and you maybe you even eat it walking back to the office or whatever. And I know that we live in the real world, but but tiny little things of bringing sacred time into food and just taking that minute to just pause and breathe and make a kind of special protective energy around that moment. And it doesn't have to be like a whole ceremony, right? It doesn't have to be 3 or 4 hours on a Sunday. Maybe that's not for everybody, but it
No,
can
well,
be anything. But
excuse me.
yeah.
Well, it can't be for some of us, and I think
Cool.
that's it's probably a good segue into the chore side of things, because certainly for me, uh, I said earlier I used to really enjoy cooking, and it's in latter years become something that I would avoid. Like the um the husband used to do the cooking, and I used to avoid it. And of course, I'm now on my own, so I've got no option but to get back into it. Uh, but and anybody that's been around me in this last uh, year or so will know that I had a real journey with this, because I, to me, it was very much a chore, and not just a chore, but something like very heavy, because I've got 3 meals a day, apart from when the kids were at school, and the whole thing, there was not one bit of it that I enjoyed. So I did not enjoy the working out, trying to think what to make, trying to create something, then working out what ingredients you need, then having to go to the shop for the stuff,
Mm.
then having to come back and unpack the stuff and put it away, then work out what's going off first, and then meal plan accordingly,
Mhm.
then prep the stuff, then cook the stuff, then serve the stuff, then have the kids, usually Chester, complain about the stuff. Um, and so what I kind of got into this drudgery around it, and also I'd really stopped enjoying eating, and I used to really love my food. And what's happened in the last um, year or so is that so structurally it's different. So I started getting these, I'm not going to name the brand because actually I get pissed off with them at times, so I don't really want to promote them. But I get one of these box things where you choose the meals. So they'll send you a menu, and it's vast. There's lots of things to choose from, and they'll do meat options, veggie options, vegan options, gluten-free options. So you choose the meals that you want for the week. They then send you a box with purely what you need in it, no more, no less. So there's no waste. I really love that aspect of it. And you get a card. So it tells you exactly how to make the stuff with pictures so you can't fuck it up. So that to me, despite the fact that I'd say about 20% of the time there's something wrong with the box that comes, but aside from that, it's been a real lifesaver for me, because so much of the stuff that I hated has been extracted and taken away and dissolved. And what I'm left with is a, a, a way to kind of fall back in love with cooking and food again. I actually do at times enjoy it, because it's taken the stress and the difficulty and what have you out of it. And I'm left with the component parts where, like you said, put on some music and I cook. I've really got into, where I can, prepping early in the day,
Mm-hmm.
when for us, coaching hours tend to be loaded towards the back end of the day. So if I can grab a spot at the beginning part of the day, even to just prep stuff or to part cook stuff, so that Ellie of the afternoon is like, oh, bless you, thank you so much, because the legwork's done. And then I've got more time, or I have got time to then have the ritual of sitting down, the reverence of, appreciating where the food has come from, and spending that time with the kids, and actually, enjoying the meal. The other thing that's happened, and this is quite a recent thing, and this is all tied up with, the stuff around iron deficiency and what have you. So the big news was that I had my bloods done end of November or beginning of December, and that iron infusion that I had back in May, I've used half of it already. So, and I was starting to feel symptomatic again. And so I've made peace with the decision to go back to eating meat and fish, which was a really interesting thing. And I saw Dahlia, who was on our podcast, I saw her last week and I was talking to her about it. And it's because I'd applied the same thing of, I'm just going to see what happens. So I'm going to give it 6 weeks and I'm going to see how I feel. And I'm going to get my blood work done again. I'm going to see what's happened. So a bit of an experiment. And it's not been the easiest decision, but the thing that's been quite surprising as a result of it is I've really started enjoying my food at a different level again. And so I'm not suggesting that, that there's one kind of diet that suits everybody, because I don't think that that's true. But I think I'd taken myself down a route that wasn't serving me and wasn't right for me and my body and my makeup, and was actually quite damaging to me, my own health. And when I'm then in a place where I'm giving the body what it's really looking for, all of the enjoyments come back of like,
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that there are things wherever you're at with food and cooking, and particularly, if you're on this in the camp, to whatever degree that I was of, it's a chore and haven't got a lot of time. There are things that you can do, and it doesn't have to be that, one-dimensional way of it. It's a chore and it's not enjoyable, and then the love gets sucked out of the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. I know that these things aren't always available or affordable for people. But for many of us, we get into a certain way of doing things in a certain pattern. And we just spending 10 minutes just having a bit of Google, having a good old Google in and around, different kind of ways of setting up your weekly meal prep. Or there was a site I used. It was quite cool, actually. Gosh, I can't remember what it was called now, but basically what you did is, it was really cheap. It was £1 a week or something. You said what, how you ate or whatever, and the kinds of ingredients you did or didn't want. And then it came up with a number of meal plans with recipes for you, and it gave you a shopping list to just print.
Oh,
So you just
cool.
walk to the shop and just buy what's on the list, and then come back, and it's so, if you're like, there are ways that are kind of more, what's the word, more kind of like done with you, rather than done, Do you know what I mean? Like done
Yeah.
for you would be they literally send you the meals done, which is fucking expensive. Done with you is like they send you, and there's varying degrees of that as well, where you can get they don't send you the ingredients, but they send you like a recipe card and the spice boxes, and you just go and grab and like, so it's
Mhm.
worth having a look at that stuff, because I we live in the real world, and sometimes that middle ground, I know for me the middle ground is very powerful. Like at the weekend, it's nice to spend some time actually doing some cooking and stuff, but during the week I do not have time. Like there are some days in my week where I literally have like a half an hour window to kind of eat or something, which isn't perfect. And I wouldn't necessarily have it set up that way. But living in the UK and having coaching hours in America and stuff, it's not easy, right? And then for many of us, we'll have kids and we've got jobs and so finding that middle ground where you're looking in the direction of eating consciously and
Mm.
honoring the fact that it's not perfect, and that's okay,
Mm.
it's really powerful. And if you're in a position where you've stopped drinking and you've suddenly this window is opened and you find yourself that interested in nutrition and all that kind of stuff, yeah, like it's sitting in front of it all and not having any help can seem quite kind of overwhelming. But you're one Google search or one podcast or one quick easy recipe book away from things being entirely different. um and yes,
Mm.
sometimes, I mean, look, it's hard, right? Because now, so like finding, if it is possible for us to find that hour on a Sunday, for example, to batch cook a one pot thing with love, it's a massive time saver. It takes us an hour on
It
a Sunday,
is.
but it saves us half an hour every single day of the week or something like that. Because it's one meal dealt with Monday through Thursday or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes those things are really worth thinking about. Like, what could I do? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is quite. It's more of a. There's a lot of spiritual sort of stuff that when it comes to food, there is with everything, but this is a really important element of this journey. And yeah, I know. And I said to you, like, oh, I wonder what are we going to talk about? But actually, it's quite a cool thing to riff on this.
It is. Well, the other thing that I was thinking about as you were talking is like aligned with the conscious element is like making things a priority and caring enough about yourself
Yeah.
that you are going to schedule the time to do the batch cooking. Or like I said to you today, because Tuesdays are like, oh my god, well, I should stop saying they're a nightmare. They're not a nightmare. They're just like
Busy.
it's I'm not using the word busy, I hate it. They're just intense. It's back to back calls,
Mm.
so it's spending time with you,
God,
which I love.
it's not a good way to start the day, is it? Draining.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's this, and then it's literally into back to back calls until 8 o'clock at night. Like it's a heavy workload, and you can't do that with no fuel in the body.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
said to you earlier, like I have to finish at 12 because that's the only window that I've got to go make myself something to eat and eat it without trying to rush it down.
Yeah.
So you have to care enough about yourself and prioritize what you need. And the other thing that I would also say is to cut yourself enough slack that like it doesn't always have to be at a certain level. So one of the things that
Yeah.
I love about spending time with Dahlia is she's very practical and realistic. And I was having a conversation with her about how like Mondays and Tuesdays are really hard days because of what's in my schedule. And she'd said to me, she was like looking at what I ate on a Monday, and she went, "You're eating crap snacks. So if you're going to have snacks, if that's going to be the bulk of what because of the running about on a Monday,
Mm.
then buy yourself posh snacks. You deserve better snacks. Give the crap snacks to the kids. You have the posh ones." And then she said, and then the kids will start eating your posh snacks. That's happened. So I'm going to have to find some better mechanism for this. And she said, look, if you're eating a ready meal on a Monday once a week, it's not a big deal.
No,
It really
exactly.
isn't a big
Yeah,
deal.
that kind of thing is it's really coming from someone who's had some very, very rocky times with food. Um, the one of the most powerful things that I've had is to just release the idea of like any form of kind of perfection around this stuff, and just meeting myself in the middle with that, because you're so right. It's not having that ready meal on a day when it's like needed because it's the only thing we've got. We need the calories and we're on the run or whatever. Is, you know, I really like the kind of like 80-20, you know, 20% of the time just not worrying, and then 80% of the time putting a bit of, and that means that for like, you know, for a good few meals a week, we can have those times, we can have those snacks, we can do that. So awesome, mate.
I'm getting hungry now thinking
Yeah,
about
me
what I'm gonna
too. I was going to say we'll have to put a pause in it because you've prioritized eating, and it's coming up 12 p.m.
I'm
So
excited.
yeah, let's go eat some food. I'm also feeling hungry with all this talk of food as well. Anything else we need to mention before we leave our lovely listeners to their day?
I don't think so. I really enjoyed that. It was delicious.
Oh God. Shocking.
Oh, it's the best I could do.
People will be cheering on this for ages. Right, this is fucking stopping now. I'm putting a stop to this.